Welcome to Empowered. I'm your host, Jessica Flynn of thejessicaflynn.com, and our show is on a mission to unleash local wisdom for widespread impact. We are committed to inspiring positive change in our small community and beyond. And joining us today is someone who's redefining what it means to move with intention. Melissa Enfield Johnson is a certified Pilates, yoga, and ballet bar instructor who has spent over 20 years exploring the how of movement through multiple lenses. With certifications from Movement for Health, the White Lotus Foundation, and Principal Bar Method, Melissa's approach is grounded in body education, not body ideals. Her mission is to help people love the skin they're in, whether young, aging, injured, mobile, or stiff, and to empower every body to move in a way that feels good, smart, and sustainable. Today, we'll be busting some of the biggest myths about the body and our health, unpacking fitness cliches and we should retire, and talking about how to truly reconnect with ourselves through movement. I'm so excited to welcome Melissa, a good friend and my own Pilates instructor when I show up to class. Thank you for saying yes to this conversation.
No problem.
I just think that you are so wise. You hold so much knowledge. I feel like everyone should have to take your mat Pilates class as a kinesiology lesson. I've learned more about my body taking your classes than I ever have in any course. So I'm really excited for you to be here and bestow some of that knowledge and bust some of these myths.
I'll try my best.
So let's start with your journey. Like, what drew you into movement in the first place?
I come from a really physical family. I think there's a lot of nature nurture business that goes on when people are generally and genuinely active in their lives. I think it comes from just spending time in families and environments that promote that kind of activity, and not by saying thou shalt or playing something competitive necessarily, although I did do that, you know, but it was never like that. My father's rules were you have to play 2 sports every year. You don't have to be good at them. They can be whatever you want, but you have to do it, because then he knew where you were at certain points of the time.
You
were busy,
moving.
you know. I made time for other things, but you know, but it was growing up in that environment, and my parents are still very active people, just generally active. I'm not talking about with kind of activity with instituted goals and things like that. They do their
lifestyle.
own. Yep, they do their own yard work. They go to a gym. They always have, you know, they clean their own house, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So it's just general activity. And all my brothers and I are involved in some way, shape, or form as a result in this kind of world.
Amazing.
Yeah.
And I love, so you use the phrase empowering people to love the skin they're in. And I think one of the reasons why I love your classes is I do feel very not only knowledgeable after, but really proud of myself. And like, I am proud to be in the body I'm in at whatever size, shape it is. So what does that phrase mean to you, empowering people to love the skin they're in?
Well, I think that empowerment comes from education all the time, right? So if you don't understand how your body works or what it's supposed to be doing at any given time, you are really easily influenced to get a sense that whatever it is wrong. You know, when you didn't even know what was right to begin with, you know, like, and it's usually built in fitness anyway, and physical health and well-being is usually an aesthetic for people, right? It's something that they see. It's not something that they necessarily feel, right? And it's only until people injure themselves or do get ill that they start to appreciate, oh, wait a minute, maybe it doesn't have anything to do with what I think that it does.
Yes.
And then they start to either educate themselves because they have to in order to get better, or we keep living in this cycle of uneducated aesthetic understanding of physical self, right?
Yeah.
So for me, empowerment is to say, okay, how much movement do you think that you should have in that hip joint? Like, show me how far you think your legs should be able to go out to the side.
Right.
Because I betcha it goes that far and you don't even know it.
Right.
And you think, oh, I'm so inflexible.
or you think it should go so far because you've seen this postcard of a yoga person doing some pose, which
this
isn't
is
actually a healthy position to be in.
And maybe you've been taught previously, like certification programs for a variety of different things are, they're not all great, you know, and you don't know anything about that as a consumer, right? So perhaps that instructor wasn't trained in those kinds of, that kind of information. Perhaps they're not even sure how much rotation that a hip joint should have externally, and what's the range of normal. So if you can gift through whatever modality you teach, whether it's yoga or Pilates, or you're a kinesiologist, or you're a physiotherapist, or whatever it is that you do to help people move through the world, if you can do that in a way that provides them with correct information about their baseline health and well-being, and convince them that most of the time what they're focusing on isn't the thing that they
shouldn't necessarily be the goal.
And the goals are a little bit skewed, and they're skewed by the noise in the world. And there's so much more noise than there used to be, you know. And there was noise, you know, as when I grew up. There was different kinds of noise, but now it's just coming at you from all angles.
Workout programs on TikTok, and we're being sold on Instagram and Facebook,
diets
and devices.
Metrics, you know. So, and all of this has the illusion of being empowering, like metrics. Let's take metrics, okay? Oura rings, Apple Watches, Fitbits, all of this kind of thing. There's just pouring information into your computer, onto your screen about you. And you think, oh, the more you know, right? The more you know.
Right.
The better education is information, right? But it depends if you, A, knew what the baseline was, which most of us don't, B, can interpret that information in a way that makes sense for you, right? So if I had a client who said recently, came into a class and said, I got 93 on my sleep last night. And I thought, okay, so now what happens? Now, so can you, is there a way in order for you to create an environment where you get 93 every night? Oh, no, I just track and see what I have. So then what's the point of that?
Right.
You know, what's the point of that?
And if you have a 92, is that going to create?
Does that create more stress? Or I've never reached 90 before. What, my friend reaches 90, and then we devolve into this where we didn't even really know what we were getting in the first place,
right?
And what that 90 means. Also, all of those devices have a very big spectrum of error. So you don't even know if the statistic that you are getting is correct in the first place.
Right.
So now you've got all of this information, you don't know what to do with it, and you just keep collecting it. And you can't tell me that that doesn't involve stress.
Right. And this is why I was so excited to do this episode and unpack some of these stories about what we're told about our bodies and what the shoulds and coulds are. And because we internalize these, I should be able to bend this way, or I should know.
Toes.
Right.
So everybody wants to touch their toes. Everyone should be able to squat. What are some of the must-haves for people? You know, everyone should be able to hang from something. There's programs now, natural movement programs, where we're all supposed to be able to do all of these natural protocols. And
this is the latest trend that you're seeing?
That one's actually a couple of years old now, right? But it's these functional movement programs, right? That's the term. Functional movement is a meaningless phrase. All movement's functional. It should be, all of it should be functional.
Right.
And if you understood biomechanically how your body just simply moves and what muscles actually do and what they are and how they're fueled and what your personal body is able to accomplish, then you would be able to make better choices of what to do with all of that
data that you're collecting.
All of that data, right? In fact, my view is you probably won't need the data.
Right.
Because you'll be able to, I feel good, this feels good, this doesn't feel good. I like this, I don't like that.
I almost wanted Melissa to bring your mannequin that has all the muscular structure to it, because I do think this is something that maybe in grade 9 health I had to label a diagram for.
100%.
Haven't looked at it since, don't know how all this works.
100%.
And I think we need to start
teach,
there.
Yeah, teach basic biomechanics
Yeah.
in things like a phys ed class or a health class, just basic knee bone connected to the thigh bone kind of stuff, where you understand the difference between a joint, between a muscle, how they work, what connective tissue is, what does it mean to slip a disc, which isn't a thing, or I put my back out,
Right.
you know, so that we can,
Like, I want to actually picture what that means.
and so that when you go to the doctor,
Yeah.
you can accurately describe your discomfort, your pain. It'll make diagnostics so much easier. It'll make recovery so much easier.
Right.
If we just had these basic understandings
Yeah.
of how our body works,
Yeah.
right?
I want to bust one more myth before we go to break, and
Please.
it's on the step count.
Oh, yeah.
The 10,000
Yeah.
steps a day.
Yeah.
Bust that one for me. What's that about?
10,000 steps was a random number selected by a Japanese pedometer company that was selling pedometers, and they want you to use them.
Yep.
And so they said, oh, everyone needs to take 10,000 steps. It was based on zero data. The data actually puts us at, and I use Canadian data when I'm looking at things like this,
Makes
because
sense.
we
We
live
are
here.
in Canada.
It looks at about 7,500 as being like a kind of nice average for people, given what they do for a living. And we're mostly getting it. We're mostly
Just
getting
in our
it.
day-to-day lives.
Just in our day-to-day lives. There are a
Right.
few people that have a couple of jobs that preclude that and give them a more sedentary life, right? And that's interesting for them to know what their baseline is.
Yeah.
But for the most part, we're getting it.
Right.
We don't rate too low on that scale
Yeah.
as Canadians.
So it's not about having to run marathons to be healthy or going to the gym all the time. We were talking right before we started recording about the European lifestyle, and they have, you know, they're eating cheese, they're drinking wine, but
Yeah.
what are they doing that we're not necessarily?
One of the major things that they, this is a very general
Yeah.
stereotype, but it's a statistic, right? Their active transportation lifestyle.
Yeah.
If we have a failing grade in anything in Canada, it's active transportation. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that people drive everywhere.
We're so more spread out, right? We're more
We're
rural.
more spread out.
Yeah.
We're in a bigger country. You know, that it has less transportation connection, right? But that still doesn't give us a reason. And it's funny, in our small community in Collingwood, I just had this conversation with a client today. I said, well, I think here we're just so much more active than people in the city. And I said, I 1,000% disagree.
Right, interesting.
I 1,000% disagree. I think people talk about being active more in our community.
Or we drive and go do a thing and then drive home, and in my experience, sit at a desk for the rest of the day, as opposed to it being.
Correct. We talk about going skiing, we talk about going hiking, we talk about our outdoor lifestyle, we talk about all of that, but we still get to work in our car.
Yeah.
We don't use our bicycle for transportation. We use it either in a recreational way, like I am going for a bike ride with my family, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing.
Right.
I'm saying that as an everyday part of our lifestyle, we do not involve active transportation.
Right.
Period.
We're going to come back with Melissa Enfield Johnson, who is an expert on movement for life, and learn some specifics about what we can bring into our lives for consistent health and movement. This is Empowered. I'm your host, Jessica Flynn. We'll see you after the break. Welcome back to Empowered. I'm your host, Jessica Flynn, and today we are having a conversation with Melissa, also from the Schoolhouse Collingwood, and we haven't talked about that yet, but you're a leader in the movement space in our community, and you've created this location for other instructors of different modalities to come and to operate their businesses out of. So you really are a leader in this space, and we're learning so much about just being empowered to learn more about how our bodies work and function. So let's talk about tuning in to our bodies, and what does it mean to move smarter or more consciously?
Well, I think knowing what baselines we need to hit as adult humans, right? So they're different for adults than they are for children. So most people, and they're like, oh, I'm active. Baseline numbers, just knowing this, 150 minutes of moderate activity a week.
Okay, a week.
That's what we need to hit as adults. That's basic stuff, right? And moderate, what does moderate mean? Moderate means your heart rate gets up a little bit from time to time. You feel effort in the body, whether that's you're in a yoga class and you feel like you're stretching beyond a point that you normally do. You're holding your muscles strongly, and there's effort involved in that for a longer period of time. You're creating more resistance than you would on an everyday. That's moderate exercise, whether you're talking about weightlifting, anything and everything, right?
Doing the stairs,
doing
the
stairs, like just some. Well, that's kind of low level. We're already pretty good at that actually in Canada. I'm talking about more than that. I'm talking about
150 minutes.
150 minutes for children up until about 17. You're looking at 60 minutes a day.
Wow. Okay.
A day. Okay, and we're for kids, they're like over 8 hours of sedentary, nothing.
Right.
All day long.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a really hard hill for us to climb, and unless we're meeting those basic fitness requirements, that's minimum.
Yeah.
These are minimums.
Yeah.
A lot of this other stuff doesn't matter.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
So whether you're doing plyometrics or weightlifting or Pilates or yoga, none of that matters. You just got to do it.
Right. And consistency. Talk to us about consistency.
Consistency is everything. Boring consistency, boring repetition. You know, so people will say, oh, well, your body will get bored. I have never, in almost 30 years of doing this, seen anyone who is generally active and stays active complain of boredom.
Or their bodies show signs of
Talk
not
to
responding,
a runner,
right?
That's an absurd thing to say.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the whole thing is repetition, right? And runners repeat like to an insane amount, you know? So you got to get into the groove of it. And the same can be said about diet. So everybody's bodies require a certain amount. You can generalize on caloric intake a day, right? And how much of that should be defined by which macronutrients. Macronutrients are like the big things: protein, fat, you know, carbohydrates, right? And so you have a basic idea, and then we have your own body's chemistry. You know, some people say, oh, well, I don't feel good when okay, great, right? So how does that work in? And you figure that out, and you just eat like a normal person on repeat forever, right? And there's no such thing as cheat days, and there's no such thing as cheat meals, and all of that. Do you know what that's for? Those are for really high-end athletes who are tooling around with their bodies in such a particular way because they make money and win awards doing it. Right? The payoff is there. For just us normies out here in the world, right? 150 minutes a week. Hit the mark, you know? Find breakfast that you like. Eat it all the time.
Eat it all the time.
Have a lunch that you like. Eat it most of the time. Go out for dinner with your friends when you're not. You know, like all of that kind of thing. And moderation. It's boring, right? Get good sleep. It's boring, but it is. Turn off your device before you go to bed. Do that every night.
There's a phrase that I've really latched onto, and I've seen friends, you know, go through major illness, and I've lost friends recently, and it's when you have your health, you have 1,000 dreams, And when you don't, you have one.
That's right.
And I think if we plastered that on our foreheads and really like think of the people in your life and the people around the world who, so if we have our health, the best thing we can do is keep consistent.
And if you go and you know exactly what you ate every day and like right down to the micronutrient, and you have your DECA scan, you wear your Fitbit, and you have all of these things, I can almost guarantee you're not a good time to go out for dinner with. Do you know what I mean? And so this part of our life, it becomes imbalanced.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And we start to lose focus about this really big part of wellness, and that's being happy.
Yes, it is.
It's
keeping our
being
stress
happy.
low.
I don't mean like happy every day is amazing. I love everything
Content.
about my life.
Yeah.
I mean that kind of base level contentment where your relationships are pretty well taken care of. You know, you have a nice little group of friends. Your job's pretty good. You kind of like it.
Yeah.
You know, like not every day is like, and then you add this stress of not optimizing your health.
Yes.
At every...
We're such an all or nothing culture, and I know I've taken that on into my personality as
Yeah.
well. And
It's a gift to release yourself from that.
Yeah.
It is a gift to release yourself from that. It is a gift to understand that all bodies are different. They all work at different levels. They're all good for different things, right?
Yeah.
You can't be good at everything. You shouldn't want to be good at everything. And you should just aim for general.
I love that about you. I love that about you. We have a lot of conversations about bold action, inspired action, but I love when it comes to our health, general.
Because we're not hitting general.
And keep it easy enough that you can commit to the consistency.
Yeah, and
right?
we're not even there.
Yeah.
So there's no point until we have like accessible food, you know, accessible schedules for exercise. You know, like ask somebody that one of my biggest pet peeves is we all have the same amount of time in the day.
Oh.
This is
busted.
simply not
Yeah.
true,
Yeah.
and comes from an extreme point of privilege for someone to say that.
Yeah.
So we've got to figure out how to create a situation in which we do have time to take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. There's so much here. Melissa's just a wealth of knowledge, but we've got just 5 minutes left. And as also a mom of teenagers, you have a lot of teenagers in your life. We're also going to be collaborating on our school project and trying to educate young people. So what do you wish every parent and teen understood about movement at that stage of life?
I wish they understood basic biomechanics, as we spoke.
Yep.
I wish they understood the basics of diet, what's really needed and what isn't. You know, I think like if my children are big athletes, and you know they want to go on creatine, they want to, you know, I just want to eat chicken. I have to explain to them that all of this extra protein that they want, they probably don't need unless they're going to do something specific with it, right? That's over and above what average people do.
Right.
Because 100% of Canadians get enough protein for their average lives. 100%. 100%.
There are a lot of people taking a big sigh of relief here.
100%, but only 25% of us eat enough fiber. We're also deficient in vitamin D, magnesium, calcium, potassium, and those are our major problems. It ain't protein,
right?
You know, unless you are into performance at a higher level.
Right.
And again, we're not meeting the minimum requirements. So eating more protein without meeting minimum physical requirement standards is absurd.
It's not one thing in isolation. It's the holistic, it's the consistency.
Hit your minimums. Decide, find an easy, lovely way to do that, right? Support things in your environment and in your society, in your community that promote education on a base level, right? Access to facilities, big deal. Recreational sports teams for young kids. All of this competitive level sports is, the death of rec leagues is a huge problem for kids. This is how they access activity. We've made it unaffordable and not fun. You know, so keep it fun for your kids. See if you can find things that they gravitate towards, that they like to do, right? Join school sports teams. That's the only answer we have, because we have no rec leagues anymore. So join school sports teams. Get out there with your kids if all of these things are not accessible to them or to your family. You know, go outside, play catch. You know, play catch.
Find the fun again.
You know, go for a walk with your kids. Go for a recreational bike ride before you ride to work. You know what I mean? Go ride with your kids to school. Don't drive your kids to school if you live around the corner. Walk with them. Walk with them. Walk with them. I understand if you live far away. Absolutely. Walk to the bus with them. Walk to the bus stop with them. You know, these little things that you can do. Lifestyle.
These are great kind of call to actions to wrap up this episode that flew by. Melissa, thank you for joining us and just getting us inspired to keep things simple, keep it fun.
Absolutely.
Know our baselines and just learn more about how all of this works. Tune in next time to another episode of Empowered. I'm your host, Jessica Flynn, and we'll see you then.